I should say, oh, sorry, just before we start, I should say, if you hear this noise, it's time to stop.
I can see my first 2 seconds already. So thanks, Tim. Thank you for arranging this, and it's great to see so many people here. Julian, do you want to come forward? Can you take off 36? So it's great to see so many people here, and of course the reason so many people are here is because this election is so important to us all. I want to just introduce myself before addressing this rather demanding question that's being presented to us immediately. My name's Andrew Murday. I'm a doctor by profession. I live in Nidderdale, near Pateley Bridge, where I run a small holding. I've lived there for about 10 years. Why is this election so important, and why are you all here? For the last 3 years, our country has been in crisis. It's been in crisis for the fact that our politicians have not been able to decide how to act on the result of the 2016 referendum. And we remain in that crisis still, and indeed are destined to carry on remaining in that crisis for some time to come. What we offer as Liberal Democrats, and I'll come to what I offer personally in a moment, is our core values of tolerance, of freedom within the rule of law, of giving opportunity to all, of limited accountable power to government, and those are the values on which we will rest our policies. Now, we'll have a chance to go through policies in the next hour, I suspect, as we answer your questions. But just addressing what you will notice if I become your MP, which I sincerely hope I will, is that you will notice I'm a listening MP. I will listen to all your views. I've been around the constituency over and over again. Of course, it's great to meet so many people here tonight because it saved me meeting the other 77,300 on the doorstep, which is an impossible task, but I've been trying to meet as many people as possible. So you'll have a listening MP who takes note of what you say and represents your views and represents your interest in particular in Parliament. And I think the important thing is that there has to be this connection between the people and their MP, because we have our council, we have our North Yorkshire County Council, they're all Conservative, and there's, if you like, a hegemony. There's no way through. There's no way through for other voices. So I think it's really important that you think very hard about who you elect for this election. We have on one side, we have an extremely right-wing Conservative populist government with Boris Johnson, who cannot be trusted. And on the other hand, we have a Labour Party who moves so significantly to the left that they're going to adopt all sorts of economics of central control, with which I don't agree. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's who I am, that's what I stand for, and that's what you'll get if I become your MP. Thank you.
Jack Renton.
Hi, I'm Jack Renton, I'm standing for the Yorkshire Party. I'm probably the youngest candidate here, and I'll just go straight on to answering the 3 most noticeable changes. That's my opening statement, was my 3 main policies anyway. So the first one is we want, as the Yorkshire Party, a devolved government for Yorkshire, just as is the London Assembly for London, the Manchester Mayor for Manchester, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, they all have devolved governments, and we think Yorkshire deserves that. By devolving power, it's helped to address the disproportionate balance currently in the UK. We have the 5 poorest regions in Northern Europe in the UK, we also have the richest. The second policy would be to reform Westminster from top to bottom. So that's one of the most noticeable changes you'll see, from local councils to county councils to the government itself, would be a full set of reform. Try and make it more streamlined, more efficient, and work for the people instead of being just tied with bureaucracy. Because how many times have you phoned the council to play about a pothole and they went, it's not us, it's X. And X went, no, it's not us, it's Y. And then they went back saying, no, it's the council. And the third thing we'll push for is future investments. We currently look to 2 short focus. 5 to 10 years is where we really look, in 5 to 10 years' time this will happen, 5 to 10 years' time this will happen, but instead we want to look 20 to 30 years down the time. By focusing on the future, we can look and try and get ahead of technology, ahead of stuff. Currently, we have some of the worst broadband speeds in Europe, countries like Romania beat us. The issue is because we have these old infrastructure that's not been invested in, and we look too shy. We're too shy to invest in this future because we think it won't be worth it in the long run. Something new will come out, but we have to invest, otherwise we're just going to get left behind. So the three main things you'll see will be investment, the full power back to you, and a full reform government. Thank you.
Obviously there's one big issue that's dominating this election, which is the environmental emergency that's upon us so urgently at the moment. You will have seen in the news this week that carbon dioxide and methane levels are at the highest level in human history, 47% above the pre-industrial levels. And we're on target to try and get to zero net carbon by 2050, and the climate will continue to deteriorate for 20 years after that. Already we've seen the impact. Floods in Hebden Bridge, a bridge washed away in Tadcaster. We've seen floods this year in Richmondshire, and now the floods in the Don Valley. On top of that, we're covering the world with a layer of plastic, to the extent that in 20 years' time there'll be 3 times as much plastic in the world as there was when The Blue Planet was filmed. Picture what you saw in that movie, and picture 3 times as much plastic. And then picture the rainforests that we're destroying, so you can have a little bit more palm oil in your biscuits. This crisis has got to be tackled, and the good news is we can do it, and the country that's first to do it, that puts itself at the forefront of the next wave of technology, will be the country that will prosper. And if we're going to do that, we have to act locally, we have to act regionally, we have to act nationally, and we have to act internationally. And yet we're turning our backs on our near neighbours, turning our backs on one of the few international institutions that's got some degree of democracy and has made some attempt to try and tackle the environmental emergencies. And for what? For a trade deal with Donald Trump's America that leaves us being told by US corporate lawyers what our parliament can do, that leaves us vulnerable to chlorinated chicken and to mass-produced battery-farmed beef. That's what this waits us if we're not careful, as well as the NHS being exposed to those same corporate lawyers insisting that US companies are allowed to bid for it. We were told this was going to be the simplest deal ever. What we've had instead has been an utter shambles. We were promised by Julian 2 years ago in this room we'd get strong and stable government. How's that worked out for you? We have a Prime Minister who is a liar, a cheat and a womaniser. He got sacked twice for lying. He cheated on his second wife while she was being treated by cancer, for cancer. Who do you know who's behaved that badly towards a woman? And would you vote for anybody with that kind of behaviour standards? He gave his girlfriend a leg up using an official position. That's the standard in which we have as our Prime Minister. Politicians are not all the same. If you look at the dignity with which Caroline Lucas, for instance, behaves, or so take a Conservative, Anna Soubry, somebody like that, the dignity in which those people behave, and the utter lack of dignity of the person you're being asked to elect as Prime Minister. We're not all the same. Don't vote for it. Vote Green.
I apologise for being slightly late, and I apologise to the candidates for being late as well. We're clearly here at a time where Brexit, as we've heard from many of the candidates so far, is at the centre of where our country is. I campaigned, as some of you may know, to remain in the EU, and I have now spent the best part of 2.5 years of my life as Government Chief Whip trying to resolve this issue of our country. The first thing that I think will occur, which I think is a positive now, having tried extremely hard to get this issue resolved, is that if the Conservative Party does get a majority, it will deliver some degree of certainty which has been really lacking over the last 2.5 years. Andy talked there about different politicians and their roles they've played. There has been a failure of Parliament to resolve this issue. I have literally spent every weekend of my life for the last 2.5 years as Chief Whip trying to get parties from all persuasions to agree. We had first of all the May deal, then we had meaningful vote 2, we had opposition talks, we've been all around the houses. So the first thing that you will see if I'm re-elected is that at least we will move forward and the country then can move on to the next stage and address these very important issues of what's the ongoing relationship with the EU going to be like, how are we going to make sure our standards remain high, and the rest. The second thing is confidence that will flow from that deal. Many of you, I'm sure, do not want to be leaving the European Union, but I genuinely think we're at a point where we have to get through it, and the second benefit will be confidence, and confidence to businesses in this area, and confidence to agricultural and the farming sector, and also peace of mind. The most disturbing thing that I have felt, particularly as Northern Ireland Secretary, when we were looking at no deal last year, is the worry, the stress, the concern from people from across the country. And this deal that has been negotiated, I think, will help move that on and get us into a more stable state. And the third thing then is from that confidence we can get more investment, more jobs, and more investment in schools, hospitals, and the whole area of climate change and all of the things we need to do to move the country on.
Okay, thank you. So this is my first campaign, and I've put this together, why I'm standing here today, why I'm standing in this election, why I'm standing for Labour. One reason is I'm fed up. I'm a local person, my children are local, they go to school here, and I'm just seeing over the last decade the cuts and austerity that has sighed through our communities, and enough is enough. So, as I said, the three things that I'll be looking at if I was elected as MP, first of all, I would be the voice of this constituency in Westminster, not the voice of Westminster in this constituency. I would be visible, I'll be accountable, and I'll be around for everyone at all times. As I said, this is about this constituency being protected, flourishing, and bringing our communities back together. I'm also parent governor at the special needs school in Brooklands, and what I've seen there as a parent governor are the challenges like all schools are facing at the moment of continual funding cuts over the last 10 years in our local councils. £850 million has been cut from Yorkshire and Humber councils, and that has had a detrimental impact on our schools, our local services, social care, and we've seen it day to day where that gap between those at the top and those below is diminishing. We need to stop that. The second thing that I would be here to do is to make sure we can create jobs in this community. The Northern Powerhouse means we have to have jobs here, we have to have people and children growing here, and making sure that they have an environment that is green and also is safe for everyone. That is the main thing for me. And the third thing that I would do, as I said, is make sure that every single person has a voice in Westminster. That is the main thing for me. And the NHS as well. We look at Airedale Hospital, for example, the cuts that are happening there, the impact that's having is detrimental. And one thing I would do, and make sure that would happen, the NHS would not be for sale. And we can see that what's happened here is being used as a bargaining tool in trade deals. That should not be happening. As I said, the NHS is not for sale. So there are many things that, if I was elected, I'm still learning a lot, as you can tell, but one thing I am is honest. I've seen my children here in this community struggle. I've seen families on 0-hour contracts. I've seen people losing their jobs continuously, and it all stems for one reason, and that is this current government. We need a government that's going to come back into power, a party that cares for everyone, not the elite, and that's why on the 12th of December you have an opportunity for change. And I would say to you, if you want that change, vote for Labour. Thank you.
Thank you to all candidates for keeping that brief. Thank you so much for doing that.